Okay, what's ham radio good for? These are some of the reasons: experimenting and teaching, gaining of technical knowledge. A lot of hams do a lot of different things. Long distance communication, satellite communication, moon bounce. They actually bounce signals to each other off the moon, off of meteor tails. Aurora. If we had Aurora this far south, we'd have people here doing that too. They do voice. They do digital keyboard type communications with each other. So a lot of different kinds of things you can do. They'd like to contact people in other countries. We have contests and awards. It's a great family hobby. For many hams, the main attraction is the ability to have and provide effective emergency communications, and that's my biggest interest in it. And with your interest in the CERT, I think that's probably where you. Well, I know that's where you're coming from because that's what you told me.
Yeah.
Why worry about emergency communications? What's wrong with the communications that we use every day? We probably don't realize it unless we stop and think about it, but our normal communications all rely on an infrastructure that we seldom see or think about. Cell phones need the network of cell towers and their connection to landlines. During the recent tsunami, cell phone capacity was quickly overloaded, even without any damage to the infrastructure, and people who tried to make calls on their cell phones just found they couldn't do it. Also in the cell system, most people don't know this, the phone you buy at Walmart is a very low priority telephone, and the authorities, the police department, fire, emergency responders and so on, have higher priority phones that are able to operate after they've shut off the access for the lower priority phones. So another thing that can happen is the chief of police or somebody can change the priorities on the cell system, and their phones will work and yours won't. And then, of course, the cell phone systems are subject to damage by severe storms, earthquakes, and fires. Here's a cell tower that was wrecked by a storm. This is what it looked like before and the after. So I suspect that one's not working. Text messaging uses the same facilities and infrastructure as the cell phones. Text messages are more reliable than cell phone if there's no damage because the text can be stored and forwarded later. They don't have to have two-way back and forth like the cell phone does. But damage to the infrastructure can still cause failure of text messaging. Anti-terrorism measures can shut off your cell phones. Terrorists often use wireless services, either cell phone or text, to communicate with each other or to detonate explosives. Anti-terrorism measures include turning off the wireless infrastructure in case of a terrorist incident or even a credible threat of a terrorist incident. And you can't rely on cell phone communication in the event of an emergency. Okay, your landline phones rely on systems of cables, optical fibers between subscribers and central offices. If I want to call my next door neighbor on the cell phone or on a landline phone, my phone call goes 6 miles up the road to Pahoa and comes 6 miles back down the road to my next door neighbor. So that's all subject to damage. These cables are located above or below ground, and they're subject to damage by storm, earthquake, tsunami, lava flow, or even just a vehicle crash. Here's storm damage to poles with power lines, telephone lines, and TV and internet cables. This was Hurricane Iniki here in Hawaii back in 1992. Caused a lot of damage to communications infrastructure. Here's some more Iniki. Some landline phone systems. Did you have a question, Elsie?
No, I was
Okay.
just looking at the pictures.
Oh, okay. Some home telephone systems, especially cordless, can't operate without electrical power. Always have a backup phone that does not need to plug into power. Cable company telephone bundles and internet telephone services cannot operate without electrical power. And landline systems are also subject to loss of service from overloads, just too many people trying to call. Doesn't take much of an emergency. These are some telephone cables along the road on the way down to where I live. And you can see here they're letting the trees grow through the telephone lines there. And there are many places along that road that the trees are actually lying on the cables And here's one of the clearest ones to see in a photograph. All four of those cables have the weight of the tree on it, so it wouldn't take much of a storm to get that tree beating those cables out. Earthquake damage. This is from Japan back in March, and you can see how underground cables can be affected by earthquake. So all of it's subject to damage. So one of the things we say about ham radio is when all else fails, ham radio works. Amateur emergency radios can be handheld or installed in your car or home. I have them everywhere. I'm kind of a radio junkie. Amateur radio is capable of worldwide communications without infrastructure. I talk to the mainland just about every week on directly without any kind of telephone lines or anything else, just from my antenna to their antenna. Amateur radio can have many emergency power options.